All right, so lovely good morning. Welcome to Kwacha Kuseni. As always, we always bring you enlightening information in important discussions right here on Kwacha Kuseni between 6 and 9 a.m. And this particular conversation is one that it needs to have a serious discussion, not just with the panel I have on studio, but also with you listening in at home, because we are on one planet, and this planet, we will never get a new one. It's the one we have. Do not be deceived and think they're going to be moving over to Mars and all these other planets, because you're going to be here until the day you die, and obviously you pass it on to your children and your children's children. And the one thing you can do is make sure that they do have a clean and safe planet by which to inherit from you. And it's with that in mind that in studio I have two very distinguished gentlemen with me. First and foremost, I do have Mr. Imwana Mwanamwalye, who is the interim CEO, Lusaka Integrated Solid Waste Management Company. Sir, first and foremost, a very good morning to you, sir.
Good morning, Chase. Good morning, our listeners.
How are you today, sir?
Very well, thanks.
Fantastic. Also in the studio, I do have Mr. Muyunda Kaonga, who is the founder of Ebusaka. Sir, good morning to you.
Good morning, Chase. Good morning, listeners, and thank you for having us here today.
Fantastic. Now, obviously, our conversation has to deal with, there was an interesting initiative that kicked off yesterday, and of course, we'll be talking a little bit more about it as we unfold in this conversation. But the key thing that I did start off with was the fact that we are looking at how we can have a cleaner, safer environment. Obviously, there's a lot of things going on within Zambia, and it's not just synonymous to Zambia. Globally, other countries are being affected, and that has to do with waste management, waste utilization. How can we mitigate those particular instances where we have a scenario that we are probably as a human race causing more harm than good by the way we're utilizing the resources that are not finite that are not infinite in nature, but they are quite finite in nature. And of course, we'll be having this conversation in depth to find out first and foremost how we can change the narrative and make sure that we do the right thing. So make sure you keep it loud on Kwacha Kuseni. If you have any questions, comments, or opinions, be sure to send them via WhatsApp on 0955-997-997, or you can send us a text message on that same number, or 0979-192-485. We're going to take a quick break and we'll be right back after this.
Stay tuned to Power FM. Power ndiye iliko Kwacha Kuseni from 6 to 9 a.m. Power Paliche 100% Z na Afro.
Of course, we are having a very, very important conversation, one that I truly feel that as a parent myself is one we need to have as a community, because you know what, like I was mentioning earlier on, Suse, the issue of how we impact the environment is very, very important. Very, very important. And it's always important to have gentlemen with us who can really break it down and help us become better citizens, especially not just for Zambia, but for the world at large. So of course we will start with you, Mr. Imwana. First and foremost, you are the interim CEO of Lusaka Integrated Solid Waste Management Company. For those who don't fully understand the company and of course their mandate, I think we just kick off from there to just get a brief description of what the mandate is for Lusaka Integrated Solid Waste Management Company, sir.
Thank you very much. The Lusaka Integrated Solid Waste Management Company is a utility that has been created by the Lusaka City Council to be responsible for all solid waste management issues in the city of Lusaka. And this has been done in conformity with the provisions of the Solid Waste Regulation and Management Act of 2018. Right. So in dealing with the issues of solid waste, we are talking of collection, transportation, treatment, and disposal.
Fantastic. We did hear in the initiative yesterday that Zambia as a whole does produce well over 3.5 million metric tons of solid waste, of which case there was a study that came through that I happened to come across that says Lusaka does produce well over 1,000 tons of waste per day. So obviously having this organization started, as you've mentioned, how vital is it to have this organization, especially when we're dealing with solid waste management?
So it's important that we appropriately deal with our solid waste, because if not properly dealt with, solid waste becomes a public health hazard.
Yeah.
It becomes an environmental hazard. But if we properly manage solid waste, we deal with those issues. It will not be any of those hazards. But it can also become a resource. It can also contribute to sustaining livelihoods if we look at it from the recycling point of view. So it is important that we properly manage our solid waste. It's as it is, we can't run away from generation of solid waste. We can only reduce and properly manage what we generate.
Yeah, I mean that's key. I mean, you did touch on recycling and how it's actually vitally important that we do recycle. I mean, the one thing that does come to mind right now is the fact that you are in this position where you've been given the mandate to deal with solid waste, but also in itself, it's not just you as an island. Us as individuals who do produce this waste also need to take care and ensure that as we're disposing of it properly. I mean, we did have the issue of cholera coming through, and it's still prevalent right now. And one of the key things I always notice is that when people are in buses or cars, we just throw things out the window. I mean, in your position, sir, how dangerous or frightening can that be if we just have a situation where everyone is not really taking a keen interest in ensuring that waste is managed properly from your own personal perspective, rather than saying, oh, okay, yeah, it's not my problem, it's the solid waste management company's problem, I'm just going to throw it out the window?
Actually, that has to do with our personal behavior and our attitude towards how we manage our solid waste as individuals, as waste generators. We can have systems, but if us as waste generators, we are not buying in, we are not participating, then what we are doing, we are not going to get the desired results. It is of utmost importance that as residents, as waste generators, we develop a mindset that leads to us being responsible for the waste that we generate. How do we become responsible for the waste that we generate? We properly store it at the point of generation.
Yeah.
We ensure that it is only collected by designated waste collection companies.
Yeah.
The point you mentioned, we should not be littering, we should not be throwing around waiting for somebody else to come and pick what you have generated and indiscriminately disposed of. We should also, there is a cost attached to the collection, transportation and disposal of waste. So it's not only keeping your waste at home, as you have it collected for disposal, we should equally be available to pay for that service.
Yeah,
that all speaks to our attitude and behavior towards how we properly manage our solid waste.
Yeah.
Okay, great. Now, speaking about waste control measures, I've been in areas where even when it's, like a rural area, people get to put and contribute money, put it together, and there's collection of waste in that regard. So I just want to find out how people had been adhering to such measures. And before we jump into your collaboration to deciding to work with the company that decided to digitalize it and say people can actually do it using a mobile phone or just using an electronic device to be able to call for somebody to come and be able to pick up the waste and have it managed in a great way, or a better way rather, if I should put it that way.
So thank you very much. So like in Lusaka, I hope I got your question, the first part correctly. In Lusaka, we are not working alone. We also provide a service in the Central Business District. We also manage the Chunga landfill. But in the other parts of the city, we have our collection partners who we contract to do the collection. So in these designated areas, we expect residents to subscribe or sign up with those service providers. Like I mentioned earlier, you subscribe, you properly store your waste, make it available for collection on the designated date, and then pay for the service. Now, how does the digitalization come in? In a place like Lusaka, that is continuously growing, and people are busy with other things. The bringing on board of technology ensures that people can pay from anywhere for the service. First of all, people can register. You don't have to be physically in contact with the service provider for you to register for the service. You can also pay for the service. But also in the event that the service provider has missed collections, has not come through to collect, you don't have to, as a resident, as a waste generator, you don't have to move from where you are living in Mtendere to get to Church Road, where our office is, to lodge a complaint. You can use that technology to lodge in your complaint, and matters can be resolved as quickly as possible.
Yeah, that's fantastic. That's fantastic. I mean, I'm actually on your page right now and I do recommend everyone who's listening in to just go on over to the Lusaka Waste Management Company's website and just take a look, because there's one key thing that just at the very beginning of the page, it just simply says, make Lusaka clean and safe for everyone. I feel it's a simple statement, but that statement carries a lot of weight. And of course, there's an element in the webpage that is looking at the recycling and the different ways of recycling, from the general waste, the hazardous material, and food waste. Why is it so important to have these separations from general waste, hazardous waste, and food waste being looked at, not necessarily separately, but putting them in separate, how should I house it, like compartments, or should I say?
Thank you very much. So remember, at some point I mentioned that we are now looking at waste as a resource.
Yes.
So you can only look at waste as a resource if you separate different components. We did a study sometime last year to just assess the waste composition in Lusaka. Almost 60% of the waste that we generate is organic waste, the food waste, the chimas, tomatoes, cabbages. Then about 12-13% is plastic.
Right.
With that starting point, then if we start separating at source, then it becomes easier for somebody who wants to do composting, for example, to just have access to the organic waste.
Right.
The plastics also will go for recycling, production of other materials. Hazardous waste, it should not come anywhere near ordinary municipal waste.
Right.
For known reasons. Hazardous waste here we are talking of, for example, medical waste that comes out of hospitals.
Right.
They should not come anywhere near ordinary municipal waste because of their infectious nature, the dangers to anybody who comes in contact with them, and also the environment.
Yeah. That's quite key, because obviously with this kind of situation, dealing in hazardous material obviously requires special equipment to deal with hazardous material. And of course you did talk about how the separation of organic waste, which can be then used in, I think you did mention the gardens and for vegetation, which then takes away the need for an excessive use of maybe different fertilizers. If you're trying to put back the nutrients back into your crops, you can just always use the organic waste to do such a thing, which is, I think it does give the more holistic appeal when it comes to how we treat our waste as a resource. Because I think the narrative right now, that if I'm getting you right, sir, is that we need to stop looking at waste as just it's done, and start looking at it as a resource. How vital is it that we in that regard, that as individuals, not just in Lusaka but Zambia as a whole, and potentially as a continent, why is it so important that we start looking at waste as a resource rather than just saying, it's just waste?
If we start looking at waste as a resource, then we would not actually talk about waste. Then we'll have a resource.
Yeah.
If I have my organic waste, I turn it into compost.
Yes.
It's not waste.
It's now the compost.
It's compost. depending on the magnitude that I produce the compost, it's either I'll use it at my house or the personal level in my garden, or I can go on the market and sell.
Yeah.
Plastics, I'll make them available to those that buy plastics. I'll be able to get a coin in my pocket.
True.
At a higher level, we will now not be transporting these huge quantities of plastics just to go and be deposited at Chunga landfill, and plastics take so long to decompose.
Yeah.
So we end up having all these plastics in one place in the environment. So if we promote recycling, if we promote resource recovery from the waste stream, we have all these benefits that accrue.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. Now, of course, it's now coming back to one of the key questions that I would love to have before we just take a quick break is, and this is one that I think everyone needs to be part of, is how can I contribute to waste reduction in Lusaka? Like, for me as an individual, like bringing it down now to one-on-one, removing the group aspect. How can I contribute as Chase towards the reduction of waste in Lusaka? What would be your advice to me?
What stands out as a, I hope it's the right time to use on this, for as a nuisance in terms of solid waste today,
yes,
is plastic waste. Plastic waste, we see it everywhere.
Yeah.
I think it is important that in what we do as residents, we need to take personal responsibility of how we manage waste. Look at the water sachets that we call the drips.
Yeah.
Yes, they are cheap, they are affordable, but look at how residents are throwing them around. They are being blown away by wind everywhere.
Yeah.
Even the bottles. So probably when we are in an environment like this, if we were kind enough to give us water, let's drink from the cup.
Right.
Don't save us in sachets, because then we will reduce the plastic waste that we are taking in the environment. I notice in some shopping, some big shops now, they are moving away from plastics. They are having paper.
Yeah.
As for carrying your goods.
Yeah.
So that will in a way contribute, but we can also be going with our own. Let's avoid getting these plastic carrier bags, many of them, one loaf of bread, one carrier bag, one. These are ending in the environment. At your home, when you are done, you will not go back with those to the shop.
Yeah.
You put them in the bin.
Yeah. So
this is what is messing our, taking space, causing us problems at our disposal site and in the environment.
Ah, fantastic. That's true. That's true. I think I am guilty of that. I need to be more conscious. You know, when you get a plastic, you put it in the load, like you go back to the shop, you get another plastic, you keep collecting them, you go back to the shop, get another plastic, instead of just saying, listen, just reuse the same one, because like I always say, this is try to save the environment by minimizing our use of plastic, because you did mention it does take a very long time to disintegrate, a hopelessly long time, and if we want to make sure we make those changes to our environment, we have to take an active role in ensuring that we mitigate the amount of waste we produce on a daily basis. We will take a quick break. When we come back, we'll be talking to the young man behind Ebusaka. Is it Ebusaka? Yes, Ebusaka. So don't go away. This is Kwacha Kuseni all the way until 9 a.m.
100% Z na Afro.
Good morning and welcome back. You're still tuned in to Kwacha Kuseni. Now, as we continue having the conversation around solid waste management, joining us right now is a very innovative mind, founder of Ebusaka, Muyunda Kaonga. Good morning.
Good morning. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Welcome. We're very excited to host you. Me and Chase were having a conversation a bit earlier on the show, and I was just speaking on him because Chase can't speak Bemba. Yeah. So I was asking him, I was like, do you know what Busaka means? He He's like, yeah, I'll break it down. And I was like, yeah, sounds very complicated. Because the first time he spoke to me about it, he was like, I think we're having people from Ebusaka. I said, that sounds
I
so
didn't say it like that.
white people-ish, you know. But good morning, how are you doing?
I'm good, thanks. Thanks, Sue and Chess, for having me here. Yeah, I think a lot of people pretty much always confuse our brand name.
Uh-huh.
So pretty much, of course, it does derive from the Bemba word called Ebusaka. Okay, yeah, so Ebusaka means cleanliness. So we just try to, add in some online on it. So
Yeah.
pretty much we now call it Ebusaka. But it pretty much means the same thing.
Yeah.
That's just like online cleanliness and stuff like that. Yeah.
That's really great. Now, getting into Lusaka and the current partnership, the collaboration that you have with Lusaka Solid Waste Management right now, I'm going to backtrack a little bit. So I was on your website and I was just looking at some things that you have done, and I've seen the progress, and you've been working and pushing towards that. You won a lot of money sometime last year. I'm looking at it. It's on your website. Like, it's trying to look at it. And Chase, in case you missed it, I'm going to read it to you. Ebusaka, the innovative waste management solution, emerged victorious as the first place winner at the 2022 MTN Momo Hackathon, securing 5,000 United States dollars. So I just want to backtrack a little bit on when you launch. When do you launch as a company, and when do you get into solid waste management?
All right. Thank you very much. So yeah, we are an award-winning startup. So I'll just break it down to you. So Ebusaka is a digital waste management platform that creates efficiency and transparency into the waste management processes by connecting the different players in the waste management cycle who want to have a streamlined and monitored waste collection and recycle. So pretty much what we are doing is we are not a garbage collection company. So we are a technology company that provides technology to the waste management players to basically support the current works that they're actually doing. So yes, we did take part in a number of competitions. We've been working on this project for quite some time now. I think close to 2 years now, just building this. So we've taken part in a number of competitions, some of them being the MTN Momo Hackathon, where we won the first prize, and then last year we won the Zikta ICT Innovation Program. So yeah.
Come on. Okay,
That's a massive achievement.
Yeah, it's massive. Zikta, MTN. So where does the general interest come from? When you look at your environment, the love for your environment, and just making sure that everybody is able to curb waste and make sure that the collection is done right, and being, I would call you the middleman, or like a very important key player in making sure that solid waste management companies are collecting waste as they should. So when does this passion start, and when do you think we can actually digitalize this and modernize it and make it in a way that a lot of people are able to access it?
Yeah, so the passion for this pretty much started during the time of COVID. I think during COVID, you can attest that we had a lot of waste that was generated because people were locked down, people were home. So pretty much during that time, I was also home. So we had a lot of waste that was pretty much piling out outside. We didn't really know who was collecting our waste. So at first I was like, okay, let me go out there and become like a climate change activist. That was the first.
Were you like, the waste is so much? Every time I try to step out, everybody has something outside the gate.
Anti-waste champion.
Exactly. So that was the first thing. Like, here we're gonna become the champions. Then I realized, like, I've got a background in technology, and one of the key parts that came out was data. Without data, it's hard to plan because pretty much. It's information. Information is not going out there. Like, how do I provide data where pretty much data helps us in terms of having informed decision. So within that period, that's why now we started working on this project. Just to break it down to you, I think you did mention earlier on around the waste that we currently generate.
Yeah.
So since us, we are like we love football very much. So we generate about 3.7 million tons of waste annually, which is about 1,160 football fields up to 1 meter. So that is like annually.
Wow. So basically what you just said is take a football field.
Yes.
The size of a football field.
Yes.
Raise it a meter.
Yes.
So that packed amount is what we generate.
Exactly. And this was the study that was sponsored by the Finnish government on circular economy. So you can see that. So that in itself has got, we can break it down in so many areas. The first thing is that it's a hazard to the environment. It's a hazard to the environment. Then the second part, it's also a hazard to human life.
Yeah.
You know. Then the third part also is the potential. You know, revenue is being lost every year. And according to the study that was done by Circular Economy, is that we lose about close to $69 million every year out of uncollected waste. And now it brings down, of course, it goes down to data. You know, data is very important, because without data, it's very hard to plan. So that's how now we saw the potential to say the current players in this in the waste management industry, they lack access to, you know, quality data. For example, like maybe someone, for example, you have got an event like here right now, and then you want your waste to be collected. You know, it's very hard for you to know how, you know, you can request for that. So pretty much that's why we came in, to just try to digitize the entire ecosystem and provide efficiency and transparency. Especially transparency, it's very, very important, so that people get to understand the kind of service that is being offered to them. You know, collecting waste is one way, but also the quality of the kind of service that you are actually providing, because there are instances whereby your waste goes for 3 weeks or 2 weeks without being collected. Now, where do you go to from there? And I think the Lusaka Integrated Solid Waste Management did say that they are, of course, a mandate to actually create regulations around this area. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. Now, speaking about the quality of service, I am on your app. I downloaded the app. I said, I need to know what I'm talking.
What we're going to do, I really want, because you know what, that's a very interesting point, but we have to take a quick break. But we're going to talk about the app.
Yes.
Because we're looking at waste and the app. We're trying to put everything in from a technological perspective, because we did talk about how we're going to integrate tech and waste management, and we'll do this right after we take a very, very quick break. If you want to know more about this app, make sure you stay tuned to Kwacha Kuseni.
Broadcasting from the Power FM headquarters in Lusaka. Feel the power.